Hello, everyone, and welcome to our final evening of conversation for our spring series of Evenings at Hope. My name is Skylar. I am a 2013 alumnus of Hope College and also serve now as a regional admissions representative in the city of Chicago. Before we get started, I just want to say that for everyone who's watching, everybody who's here with us, I hope that you and your friends and your family, you're safe, you're healthy, and that you're finding some sense of peace in this season that we found ourselves in. And I also hope that if you've been following along with these conversations and as you've started to think about what maybe this next year will look like for you and going to college and hope coming to be with us at Hope, that's giving you something to look forward to. And that's giving you a sense of peace in itself, that even in the midst of all this, there's something great to look forward to. And we're excited to continue to talk about that and some of the things that are on the horizon. Tonight, we've got a really special conversation, one that I'm pretty excited about because it revolves around a program that is pretty close to my heart. It's one that I think is phenomenal, and I wish every student at Hope College could have the opportunity to take part in this program. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Phelps Scholars. This is a living learning community at Hope that focuses on multicultural life and global context understanding. So I'm going to bring on to the conversation someone who's become a really good friend of mine, Casey Stevens, who is the director of the Phelps Scholars Program. Casey, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, Skylar. Thank you. It's good to be here. Glad to be with you all.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Casey, I think it would probably be helpful just to start if you could talk a little bit about your journey to Hope College and telling people a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So as we said, my name is Casey Stevens, director of the Phelps Scholars Program. This is my first year in Phelps Scholars and at Hope College, actually. So I did my undergrad at a place that is quite a bit different than Hope. It's a large state school. And I think professionally, I found my way venturing towards a place like Hope because I wanted to be a part of an intimate campus community where I could have the chance to know students and be known by students, to journey alongside of them. So I spent the last 10 years, I am getting older, about the last 10 years working in higher education, and was really, really eager to be a part of something where I could work closely with students, mentor students, walk alongside of them, be in the classroom some, but also be a part of what it's like to shape campus culture and climate and what the student experience is like. And so that led me to Phelps Scholars, and it's been a really, really great place so far.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think I speak for everyone when we say that. So happy that you're here. And even in the short time that I've gotten to know you, I think your insight and what you're bringing to campus is really, really valuable. As we think about the Phelps Scholars Program, maybe you could talk a little bit about the mission of Phelps Scholars and touch on some of the details of the program for our audience.
Absolutely. Yeah. So our mission really, right, like if we were to say it verbatim, is to be a place where students are prepared to thrive in a world of people from different backgrounds and who have different worldviews, right? So where students are coming into a place and they can bring their whole self, but also walk alongside of other people who are maybe similar to them, but also different than them. I've heard our resident director, Jordan Hill, who we'll have the chance to hear from in just a moment, one of the I think best ways that he summarized this is he said, Phelps Scholars is an alternative vision for community where difference doesn't have to mean division, right? And so I think as we live increasingly in a polarized society that as our students are eventually going to graduate into as young professionals, what does it mean to come into that and to know how to have hard conversations, but also how to have meaningful community in the midst of our difference, right? And I think to resist some of that polarization and to walk alongside of each other in meaningful community. So some of the ways that we structure that, we structure that by trying to lower as many barriers as possible. So we lower the barrier between the classroom and where students live and the community that they're a part of. So Phelps Scholars live in the same residence hall, and they also take 2 of the same required general education courses. So we're not adding anything to the workload for students, but we're also taking advantage of some meaningful academic opportunities where we're exploring issues related to race and culture and community. And then they're coming back to the same living space every night, right? And they're able to walk alongside of each other. We also do some off-campus experiences that are a part of that. So all of our students, we want them to know what it means to belong meaningfully to a community. So they are volunteering in the city of Holland every year, doing some really meaningful work, and also kind of learning the strengths of the community. And then we do some off-campus cultural field trips too. Um, and those are, this year we visited a mosque, which was my first time visiting a mosque, which I think was an interesting experience for a lot of students at a Christian college. But I know I wasn't the only one who said this, but I think I walked away from there saying like, oh, that was different for me. Like I had never done that, and I still have my beliefs and my worldview, but I learned a great deal about reverence and devotion of prayer and things like that, right? Um, so what does it look like to learn from our neighbor as we visit them where they are? And then two, we have fun, right? So after all of these trips, we are we're going to we're finding some great eats, some great restaurants, and we're digging in together, and we're breaking bread together, and just having some good experiences. And students, I think too, are having a really great time. Some of my fondest memories from this year are breaking a sweat playing ping pong in the Scott Hall basement against some students and things like that. So also having some fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, and in a little bit, we're gonna bring some students on to talk a little bit about their experience. And yes, I'm sure they will speak to the ways they've grown in terms of their cultural competencies. But certainly, I think that sense of community and that sense of fun and togetherness, I think that's a really special part of the program too. So I love that you touched on that. Casey, you're almost 1 year through, one full year through. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about how you've personally, since you've been here, seen this program impact the lives of students.
Yeah, I think, for a lot of our students, it's been both incredibly transformative and a strategic opportunity for them, right? And I think as fun as Phelps Scholars can be and as meaningfully transformative as it can be, it also has some really positive outcomes. So our students are connected to different advisors and mentors from day one. I think of our students who are pre-med, we have just about Hope College through the local hospital gets a number of volunteer placements, and Phelps Scholars has about 25% of those on reserve for our students who are able to get in there. I think for pre-med and nursing students to have that kind of an opportunity. And so I think strategically, right? I think also, it's not always easy being a student of color on a majority campus, a majority white campus, and that's our reality right now. And so I think too, for our students who are trying to figure out what it might mean for them to have a place of belonging where they know that they can come home and into their residence hall, their dorm every night, and there's going to be some folks who maybe look like them or enjoy some of the same foods as them. I think that's been a really important piece too. So that sense of belonging, that strategic academic and personal development and growth, but also just transformation. I think one of the number one things that I heard from students is like, I learned what it meant to be willing to learn while being uncomfortable. And that's been a huge part of growth, right? So I think just entering some of those spaces has been a really cool thing for me to see.
That's awesome. You've alluded to this a little bit in our conversation already. When we talk about this idea of community and how the structure of this program, how that plays a role in developing students. But I wonder if you can just elaborate a little bit on that community piece and the role that it plays in developing student relationships with staff. So the fact that offices are located right in close proximity to where students are living, the fact that they're taking these first year seminar courses together, how does that all play a factor in this community development?
Yeah, it's a really great built-in structure for students to both have a strong support system where they're living and where they are most frequently crossing paths, but also across campus. So our class is co-taught by 4 professors. One of them is just one of the most reputable and revered psychology professors across campus. Another is the director of our counseling center, someone who oversees our counseling and wellness center as well. So we have folks across campus, but also your Phelps Scholars staff, your resident director, myself as the director, and our program coordinator all have our offices in Scott Hall where students live. So students have needs on a day-to-day basis. I like to say, if somebody has a need or if they're celebrating a win, they have somebody right there to walk alongside of them in that every day. That's been, I think, some of my highlights have been when somebody just comes in and they're like, should I drop this class? Or what are your thoughts on this kind of experience that I'm having with my friends right now? It's been a little bit difficult, or I'm a little bit homesick, or like, man, I really nailed that test, like knocked it out, right? So to be able to walk alongside of students in all of those ways. I also think it's been a rich part for them too. I think we work hard and pride ourselves on modeling what it means to be a professional and to role model that for students, but also to be personal in that space too. So we really enjoy that. And it is a good, I'll say too, I think a glutton for coffee. And so it's been a good reason and excuse for me to have a lot of good coffee and probably too many pastries with students too.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. That's for sure. We've touched on this pretty much throughout. And I think that just highlights the significance of the residential experience within this program and how important it is that these students have this living community that kind of intersects into every part of the program. So I would love to bring Jordan Hill into the conversation, who is the residential life coordinator for Scott Hall and serves on the Phelps Scholars staff. Jordan, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Skylar. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jordan. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I would love if you could just take a minute to introduce yourself, but then also highlight the residential component of the program and why it's so significant to what Phelps Scholars is doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my name's Jordan, and I'm the resident director of Scott Hall. If you're not familiar with that term yet, each hall at Hope has one, and this is a professional staff member who supervises the RA team and in a variety of ways works with the residential life department at Hope for the personal, not just academic, kind of whole person development of everybody here. I was a Phelps Scholar myself back in the day, and they always say once a Phelps Scholar, always a Phelps Scholar. It is interesting having lived here not too long ago, but fairly long ago as a freshman, and then now being back. Each resident director lives in an apartment within the hall too, so I'm kind of right here. So yeah, this is my second year as the resident director of the program, and aside from everything that an RD already does, I just love being a part of the Phelps Scholars team, because being a living learning community, I think it makes sense to have your residential life staff be really involved in the mission of the program as well. So it's really wonderful to work with Casey and Michael, who Casey mentioned, our program coordinator, and the FYS team, and of course all of the RAs and everything like that. So just briefly, Scott Hall is a physical space. We're located here on the south side of the campus, right between the lovely communities of Wyckoff and Lichty, and not too far from Collin. If you're familiar with any of those, we're kind of smack in the middle of all of them. So we're kind of the crown jewel of the south side of campus, I guess you could say. 3 floors with a basement. The basement is all recreational space where Casey and Michael's offices are. We have a very nice kitchen and a kitchenette, which is kind of a head and shoulders above many res halls, if that's a perk for you. And then the first floor contains student residences, as well as kind of a recreational lounge and then a quieter study lounge, in addition to my apartment. And we'll have a few upperclassmen, sophomore Phelps Scholars living in another apartment next year too. So I'm excited to add that element to the community. And then the second and third floors are entirely residential. So all in all, we're just under 100 students and co-ed. So we have men and women living here. And yeah, that's Scott Hall as a building, but I think Scott Hall is more than just a building for the Phelps Scholars. It sounds like really cliche to say, but it's a home, and it's home to a lot of great experiences, great growing experiences, great memories, both of the kind of serious kind. And as Casey already mentioned, we have a lot of fun as well. But connecting it to the mission of the program, I think it makes a lot of sense to be able to actually live together when you're in this class and you're talking about community and identity and how do I fit in and how can everybody find belonging and how can I interface well with people who I haven't met before, who I maybe don't understand or don't have a lot in common with. I think it just makes so much sense when you actually live together too, on top of that, because you get to live out in practice that kind of ideal community that you've been talking about more theoretically in class. And I also think it just makes Scott Hall a very tight-knit community, because I think a big point of community building is just shared experiences together, just any shared experience, meaningful ones or difficult ones, or doing your homework together, or kind of silly memories. And when you're in Phelps Scholars, you know, you have the class with your fellow Phelps Scholars, you live in the same building, you're going on these cool trips, you're doing some volunteering with some of the other ones. And so you just have so many more opportunities or instances, I guess, to spend time, and often very quality time, with your hallmates, who are also your classmates and your fellow Phelps Scholars. So I hope that kind of answers the question, but I'm happy to go into anything else if you want to know more.
I think that was great, Jordan. You know, one thing I think about with the community in Scott Hall and with the Phelps Scholars Program is that this doesn't go unnoticed from the rest of campus, right? I was someone who went to Hope and wasn't a Phelps Scholar, but still spent a lot of time with friends in Scott Hall because I could see what was happening there in these community events, and I wanted to be a part of that. And I think that just goes to show that you all have something really special in terms of that, and I think that's pretty cool. So thank you for highlighting that a little bit for us. I know you all love hearing from us, but I think it's helpful to get some student perspective on this too. So we're gonna go ahead and invite some of our students to start joining us so they can talk a little bit about their experience in the Phelps Scholars Program. We're fortunate to have 3 different students who will be joining us who all have taken part in the Phelps Scholars Program. Our first student that has popped on the screen is Brooke. Brooke, would you like to take a moment to introduce yourself to the audience?
Absolutely. My name is Brooke Kale, and I was a freshman this past year in Scott Hall in the Phelps Scholars Program. I am from Southern California near San Diego, and I am currently looking into double majoring in global studies and Spanish with a minor in poli-sci and environmental studies at Hope.
Awesome. Thank you, Brooke. Thank you for being here. The next student who will be joining us is Marvelous.
Hi, my name is Marvelous. I'm a freshman at Hope College. I'm an international student. I'm from Nigeria, so I'm really far from home, but I've been super grateful to the Phelps Scholars Program for just being my home away from home, and I've made really amazing friends, and I'm super excited to talk about that. I'm double majoring in philosophy and leadership, so yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for being with us, Marvelous. And last but not least, we also have Aundrea joining us as well. Hi, Aundrea.
Hi, my name is Aundrea Hernandez. I am part of the class of 2023, and I am planning on double majoring in business and communication and a minor in Japanese, hopefully. And I am from Dallas, Texas.
Awesome. Welcome. Are you all doing all right? Holding up okay?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Glad to hear it. So I have a question for everyone right off the bat. I think it'd be helpful for us to hear from each of you on what Phelps Scholars means to you. So if it's okay, Brooke, I'll have you go ahead and go first.
Yeah, so Phelps Scholars, I think Marvelous already touched on this, but it's definitely been a home away from home for me because I'm not coming as far away as some other people like the international students, but I am coming from over 2,000 miles away, and there is no one from anywhere that I know that was going to Hope. So when I was touring campus, I toured and I had the opportunity to stay in Scott Hall, and I saw the amazing community that they had, the class before me, and I thought that's something that I want because I knew coming in it was going to be a huge transition, just going to college in general and a whole new state and a whole new place I didn't know with a bunch of new people. And so especially coming from a location where it's a lot more diverse, and I've had a lot of friends through high school and growing up that are from many different cultures and backgrounds, I wanted a place where I could continue that and just continue the work and some of the passions that I have for just kind of inclusion. And it was really great for me to have these conversations and this camaraderie with a lot of the students in Phelps Scholars that really made me feel at home and have my own place at Hope. So truly, the Phelps Scholars Program and Scott Hall have been my center, like revolving place that I always come back to and know that I'm accepted and feel safe at.
That's awesome. Thank you, Brooke. Marvelous. You talked about this program being your home away from home. Can you touch a little bit on what Phelps Scholars means to you?
Yeah, it's honestly just been a really great program. I would say like coming from like over like 6,000 miles away and like being from a completely different culture and like not being used to food and switching to like I had never seen snow before coming to the US and just being able to relate to like Brooke. Brooke and I actually bonded over that at the beginning of the semester because we were both experiencing like really drastic cold temperatures for the first time. So having the opportunity to share those experiences with people not from just like the Midwest, but also from all around the US, because that was something that was really important to me coming to Hope College and like, which was one of the reasons that I chose the Phelps Scholars Program. I wanted to have like a good sampling of what the different like sides and parts of the US were like. And so the Phelps Scholars Program really gave me that opportunity. And it was also very helpful for just like meeting friends from all around the world. I know past and current Phelps Scholars are from like, I'm from Nigeria, have people from Malaysia, Korea, all over the world. And it's just honestly been a great place to have conversations and think about issues that if I had stayed in my own small bubble back at home in Nigeria, or maybe not even been at the program at Hope, I wouldn't have had those conversations. So it definitely means a lot to me.
Awesome. Thank you, Marvelous. Aundrea, what does Phelps Scholars mean to you?
Coming into Hope, like I'm just like Brooke and Marvelous, well, kind of like Marvelous. I am 1,000 miles away from home, and I knew absolutely nobody going out of state for my high school, and especially to Michigan and that far. So I really wanted to find a community and a place where I felt like if I had a family, I wanted to have a place where I could go back and share a story with literally just anyone and talk about my day and talk the night away. And to me, I found that connection and that relationship with people in Phelps Scholars. And whenever I see it compared to other dorm rooms, to campuses from Texas, it compares nothing to it. Phelps Scholars to me, it's a place where I feel like I am accepted for who I am and I don't have to change the ways to fit in to the normality of like a college student on Hope campus. And I could be myself and accept my culture and get closer to my culture and get closer to other cultures and be aware of my surroundings. And I feel like Phelps Scholars is really just a global engagement with the family.
That's awesome. A global engagement with the family. That's great. Very great. Um, Casey, do you want to jump in and maybe touch on a little bit what Phelps Scholars means to you?
Yeah, I think some of the things that stand out to me and having the chance to walk alongside of Phelps Scholars this year, I think of home, I think of community, and for me too, pride. Um, I echo what has been said in terms of what I have witnessed. I think it can be a lot, right? Like we're inviting students to live on our campus who have spent the last 18 years, many of them finding home with some of the same people and in the same places, and that's hard work, right? To find home in a new place, and we're inviting you to that, but we're also going to support you in that, right? And so, so I'm really really grateful to hear that from these Phelps Scholars that they have found that. And I think that's true for so many of our students. I also think community, right? And what I mean by community is a place where you can be known and know others and celebrate others and also feel celebrated, right? So, like, I love that, Marvelous, like, he, Marvelous, I'm going to tell a funny story that I think about you, but like, we had a fire alarm that went off like that first freezing cold day of winter, and Marvelous came outside in flip flops. And that was his introduction to sub freezing temperatures, right? But and we could laugh at that, but we could also celebrate the fact that, like, all right, Marvelous is having a new life experience. So just community and a place to feel celebrated and to celebrate. And I try not to be paternal, right? Like too often. But like I just have a ton of pride in our students. Like I am so often just overwhelmed with like amazement at what they're doing. And I really mean that. I'm not saying that to flatter any of them. Like they are amazing, wonderful people, and it's a privilege to walk alongside of them. But Phelps Scholars also have a lot of pride in being a Phelps Scholar. I think Brooke might be wearing her Scott Hall sweatshirt right now, right? And there you go. 11% of our student body are Phelps Scholars. So over 1 in 10 students that you see across campus at Hope College has gone through the program. And so you'll see this flood of these navy blue Scott Hall sweatshirts across campus every fall, and it's amazing. So that pride piece also sticks out to me. You talk about having a place that you can be proud of and people that you can be proud of. I think Phelps Scholars is a place like that.
All right, Jordan, take us home. What does Phelps Scholars mean to you?
Well, I could definitely echo everything Casey said. We just have so many wonderful students every year who come together and make this community that's even greater than the sum of its parts, which are already pretty good. So yeah, it's a real honor to work in the program, especially after being a part of it myself. And that's what I love about hearing from the students, as well as so many of the things that they say that Phelps Scholars means to them, or what are their favorite memories, what's been meaningful, are the same things that I found in the program just some years ago. So I think it's really wonderful that this kind of community and personal growth experience keeps happening at Hope. And I think to try to take it home, as you said, for me, what Phelps Scholars means is intentionality. I think intentionality is a big piece of the underlying piece of what Phelps Scholars is, because we talk a lot about how everyone in the program, we celebrate their uniqueness, our differences, learning from differences, but everyone in the program does have one thing in common, and that's that they chose to be in this program. And it's entirely voluntary and anyone can be a part of it, but no one has to. But I think it says a lot about the students who do decide to apply and commit to the program, because it says, hey, I'm willing to go deeper. I want to be more intentional. I am willing to share myself more fully and explore myself more fully at the same time as others are doing the same thing. And we're going to connect in that. And that's what I loved about being in the program. That's what I love about still working in the program. I think it's a really intentional place, and I think a ton of meaning and positive growth come out of that. So that's what I have to say.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jordan. All right, I want to talk to the students for just a little bit, if that's all right. Students, question for you. What is one of your favorite memories from your year with Phelps Scholars? And we're going to start with Brooke again. Brooke, tell us about one of your favorite memories.
Yeah, so this is kind of just like a conglomerate memory, as just any event that I participated in where I was immersed in the Phelps Scholars community was just a real favorite of mine. When I think back to just any time that just the PS peers and I would just conglomerate together, whether it be in Scott Hall's basement for our all hall events called Self-Care Sundays, and just eat ice cream and act like goofballs and like play pool. That was just a lot of fun. I just had so much fun with them and making memories and just the connections that we made, because a lot of friends were made very quickly just through being in close proximity. And like Jordan was saying, intentionality, we're all there to make deeper connections and have those harder conversations, but not all connections are made immediately through the hard conversations. It was just through having fun together. And beyond those, just like the basement activities, I had a lot of fun on the trips where we would go and we'd learn new things, eat great eats, like Casey said. We had a lot of fun, really good food, and really good new experiences that were really challenging and really big growth experiences. I think I speak for all of us when I say that although they were super fun and really amazing, I also learned a lot through them and was exposed to a lot more that I definitely had never before. I'd never been to an Islamic center. I'd never been to a Holocaust museum. So stuff like that was just really amazing. And I got to share it with all the other members of Phelps Scholars, which was just really special for me. And I think I'm going to cherish those memories forever. So just kind of everything that I learned through the laughter and through the memories is really special for me.
That's great. Brooke, I have to ask, as a foodie, what was your favorite food that you've had during the Phelps Scholars program?
Okay, so after the Islamic Center of America, we went to this Middle Eastern restaurant and had some of the best like falafel and pita bread, and it was so good. We brought home leftovers. I think every one of us got like this giant box of leftovers, and we put it in the basement afterwards. There's probably like 20 boxes, and we fought over that. Like there's people with containers like taking it and running. It was kind of just like a free for all, but it was really good food and it was really fun.
I love that. Thanks for sharing. All right, marvelous. Casey already put you on blast and maybe told your least favorite memory from the Phelps Scholars program, but maybe you can tell us one of your favorite ones.
Oh my God. I didn't even remember the flip-flop story till now, which is great. I think mine also has to do with food. I remember, I think during the first semester, I enjoy cooking because it reminds me of like my culture. It just keeps me like connected to like the kind of food that I would eat back home. And I would cook for like my small friend group of like 6 or like make meals on my own. But I remember texting we have a Scott Hall group chat using GroupMe, and I remember texting the group chat one day and being like, oh, like if you're interested in eating some Nigerian food, like I will be happy to cook for you. And I was expecting maybe like 5, like 7 people to sign up, and then about I think between 30 to 40 Phelps scholars signed up, and it was a whole show. We ended up there were definitely people who helped out, and we cooked for between like 6 to 8 hours. I was really exhausted after that, but it was great because like these are people who aren't from they hadn't experienced that kind of food before, but they were so open and like willing to support just me like exploring my culture here and like teaching them about it, that I just felt like even more at home like here in the program than I would sometimes feel back in Lagos. So I definitely like that is one of my fondest memories of like just being with my community and having conversations and just cooking. Yeah.
That's great. Aundrea, you're up. Favorite memory from your year in the Phelps Scholars Program?
So I feel like food brings everyone together because mine also has to deal with like cooking and stuff like that. So some of my favorite memories in the Phelps Scholars is that at like we would stay up until like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning in the basement on the social side, and we just talk and talk about our days, talk about conspiracy theories. At one point, someone ends up starting a rap and everyone just joins in. And then at some points, we just start cooking. And the worst part about it is just that it could be on a weekday. So it's still fun to enjoy the presence of other people. And I also enjoyed the time whenever we went to Chicago. We're coming back from visiting a church, and everyone was just singing to all the songs that we were singing during church. And it was fun because it filled the whole bus with like enthusiasm, with happiness, and everyone was just having like a really good time. And yeah, those have to be my favorite memories from the Phelps Scholars Program.
That's great. What I love hearing from each of you is, as each of you told your story, I could like see the joy on your face as you went back to that moment and you tasted that delicious food that you had, or when you realized you didn't buy enough groceries for the 50 people that were coming to eat your food. That's really cool. And I think those are the feelings that you're going to hang on to for years to come as you think back to these really special moments that you had that maybe happened more organically. So I love that. I want to transition to asking Casey and Jordan a question. You know, we've talked a lot about this first year experience, but one message from Phelps Scholars that I love is once a Phelps Scholar, always a Phelps Scholar. So I'm wondering if you both could speak to the ways that you work to support students after their first year in the Phelps Scholars Program.
Yeah. I can certainly take a stab at that and try to be conscious of time too, as we seek to leave a few minutes for questions at the end. I think, Phelps Scholars, we've done a really, really great job, I think, at having a strong first year program. In our first year as Phelps Scholars, there were 39 students 20 years ago. And now there are 80 to 100 students every year. And so we're looking at sometimes upwards of 400 students on campus who have been a part of the Phelps Scholars Program, which has revealed this need for us to support our upper level students well. So I think one of the ways that we do that is very proactively during year one, and we're trying to have honest conversations with students about what does it mean for you to find a landing spot, right? Like this has been a really meaningful and wonderful home for you, but where are some of the other places that you are excited to be involved year two? Who are you gonna, where are you gonna lead? Where are you going to serve? And 85% of our multicultural student organizations leadership in those organizations are Phelps Scholars. Roughly 25%, roughly a quarter of all RAs at Hope are Phelps Scholars, right? So I think we do a good job of helping our students to develop and grow and find those landing spots. But also some other things that we do in response to that year two, we have reunions every year. We, at the start of every school year, I should say, this will be year 3, ideally this year, assuming it can happen, but it's a welcome back barbecue that we have where our upper class students come back and meet our first year students for the first time. And that's a really wonderful place to be. And then we also celebrate our seniors at the end of their graduating year. So we have a dinner with them. This year, we're not able to have dinner with them, but we're mailing them all a gift, which we're excited about and hope touches them in some way that we're not able to do when we see them. So those are just a few examples. I think mentoring is also something that we do very informally, right? So students stay connected, I think, to our staff, and a lot of first year students come to know our upper class students, but we're also looking at developing and growing a more formal mentoring system to keep our upperclassmen connected to us, but also to help them help our first year students too. So those are a few examples that come to mind if Jordan has anything to add to that.
I think Casey did a great job of hitting on pretty much all of our efforts. I think the only thing I could add is just how important I think that informal connections are. And I think we as the program staff try to kind of make those informal connections happen as much as possible or make them as deep as possible. But I think the reality is, like, when you have this experience, which is pretty consistently similar over time in terms of its impact, it helps you connect to other people who have already had that experience faster. And I think one of the real bonuses about the program, kind of like Casey mentioned earlier, like with the sweatshirts we make every year, you get a big inroad to connect with a lot of other upperclassmen students as soon as you're on here. If you're a freshman in college and you're talking to an upperclassman, one of the first questions they're going to ask you is where you live. And if you say Scott Hall and they were also a Phelps scholar, they're always going to reply with like, oh, I was a Phelps scholar. I lived in Scott. Like, what's your room? Who are the professors? You know, all of this stuff. And I think it's a lot of the benefits that come to being part of another type of social organization or something like that. So basically, to sum up, I think connections between the classes happen very naturally, and those are very beneficial. And so we try to do everything we can to help those happen, basically. I think it's a very fun part, having all 4 years all the time as a kind of big Phelps Scholars community.
That's awesome. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Jordan. Super helpful to talk about this continued support. I want to shift it back to the students and ask you one kind of take-home question. For the millions and millions of people that are watching this at home right now, there are some that might still be on the fence about the Phelps Scholars Program. Maybe some of them are hearing about this for the first time in this video. Maybe some of them have been contemplating it and they're kind of waiting for that final push to commit. And my question for you is, what would you say to those students who are still not sure whether or not this is what they want to do? What would be your message you want to say to them? And we'll start with Brooke again, if that's okay.
What I would say to someone who is either first hearing about the Phelps Scholars Program or has heard about it and is still considering, I was in that boat. I waited super duper late to apply because I knew I really wanted to do it, but I was looking at some other programs. But I eventually decided on the Phelps Scholars Program because I knew it was not something that I could do a different semester or a different year in Hope College. And it was really, really something I was interested in. So if you're thinking even just a little bit that you want to do it, I'd say do it. It's so fun. It really made my freshman year. Honestly, I'm not kidding when I say I don't know where I would be if I didn't do the program. I made my closest friends, had my best memories, and just my greatest growth experiences through the program. And don't get me wrong, it's not easy. The importance is in the difficult conversations where you learn and grow and build trust. And I think that's what's so important. I mean, not many great things come out of very easy things. So I'd say in this case, do the hard thing. It's going to be, for me, it's been the best thing and experience so far in my Hope College experience. So that's my advice.
Yeah, I would basically say the same thing, where it's this is more or less during your 4 years at Hope, when you have the only opportunity to ever do this program, because it's only available as a freshman. So you might as well take the opportunity now, because you really won't have that chance to live with people from like diverse backgrounds during your other 4 years at Hope. And like, I know a bunch of people like sit on the fence because it's like, oh, like I don't feel like I have like any like diverse experience. I don't feel like I represent like a cultural or ethnic minority or something like that. But I think like everyone has a perspective to offer, and even it like we need different people to be part of the conversation for those conversations to actually be meaningful and for them to happen in the first place. So please sign up, please do the program, and there's no reason not to do it. Like the coursework that we do is also geared towards like making sure you actually do well in your academics. And like we work closely with the library. If you look at Celebration for Undergraduate Research, a lot of like the people who end up participating in that are Phelps scholars, and like it's just a great way to train for if you're looking at going to grad school. This is a great way to start learning how to do research with professors and stuff like that. So take hold of those opportunities, and you can also combine it with sports teams, because a lot of people have asked about that. We have a bunch of people on teams who are also Phelps scholars. Andrea's roommate is actually one, and she can speak more to that.
Awesome. That was a good handoff. Aundrea, take it away.
Okay, so yeah, what I would tell people if like they were on the verge, it's like 100% I recommend you do it, because it really has impacted my life in the way that I could say that I like Hope is a home for me now, a home away from home, like my actual home. And like, I don't know, it's just like the connections that you made that have like made things so much stronger and so much easier for me. Like for my RAs that I have there and for my friends, it's such a great support system that I can lean on. I know for me, I didn't have the best year, like for like having to like fit in, but the Phelps Scholar program actually made it such more easier for me to find a home, to find a community, and to find the friends that I need in my life. And also for like those who are like saying like, oh, I'm gonna be an athlete at Hope, and I don't know like if I'm gonna be able to balance it out. My roommate, I saw how she managed it, and she was a nursing major, so she was able to enjoy the things that we did. She enjoyed self-care Sunday. She did as much as she could, and honestly, it really kind of sometimes intertwined with her games and like her practices, but still she made time, and the time that she had for Phelps scholars was really meaningful to her, and we would come back and actually have like conversations about it. So for those who are on the verge of saying that like sports or Phelps, I say both. And for those who are like any other dorm room or Phelps, I say both.
Awesome. Thanks, Aundrea. I mean, this conversation has been so awesome, and I find myself getting more excited about the Phelps Scholars Program, but also I do want to give our students a shout out, because I also feel a lot of pride that these students are a part of Hope College. You all are awesome. And the way you were able to speak to this program and what it's done for you, yeah, it's just been really, really great to hear. And I'm sure our audience feels that way too. I do want to open it up to some of the questions that have been asked on the chat. We did get a question about whether or not the program fills up year to year. And Casey, you alluded to this a little bit, talking about the 80 to 100 students that we typically have on a given year. But I was wondering if you could maybe expand upon that a little bit and talk about some of the logistics of that process of applying, enrolling, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so students are interested in applying. Our website is, you could easily find it on Hope's webpage, but it's hope.edu/Phelps. And the application is on the right-hand side of that page. And it's we ask for 3 to 4 sentences per question. So try not to break your heart with another application to fatigue you even more in that regard this season. But yeah, so what we do then is we admit students on a rolling basis. And should we become full, we would do that based on order of commitment from students. So you apply, and then if you were admitted, we would ask you to commit to Phelps Scholars. And then if we filled as a program, which we would cap at about 100, because we try to keep each of our first year seminar classes at about 25 or less. Going above that would make yeah, it just would not be logistically feasible, right? So we're kind of maxed out at about that 100 number.
Perfect. Thank you.
Oh, and just if you don't mind to add one note on that too, Scott Hall is a physical space, as I mentioned, holds just under 100 students too. So we often do overflow Scott by a little bit, which I think is great because then the students can just be housed next door in another hall or something like that close and still participate fully in the program. But just another reason to apply sooner rather than later in case we do eventually run out of rooms in Scott. It's really fun to live actually in Scott, so apply in time to do it. But that's, yeah, kind of another numbers thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I'm glad you mentioned that, Jordan. We did just have another question come in case you just mentioned the first year seminar class again. For the students, we have a question about what you learned in your FYS class. Would anybody like to jump in and talk a little bit about some of the topics you discussed in your course?
I'll jump in. Some of the things that we learned about was like identity development and kind of how that looks different depending on your background and where you're coming from and just in your life and things like that. And also being sensitive to how different people can have different experiences. So I'll have a different experience from someone else who came from a different place, or if they have different worldviews, etc. And so just being really aware and intentionally just sensitive to that. So you learn more about yourself as you're learning about others, which I thought was pretty cool. We read a couple of really amazing books that really pulled on heartstrings and made you more, I think, like emotionally aware, at least for me, of some stuff that was going on that just for a very, very long time, just kind of like some systemic oppression that we can, and how we can combat that. And so it was just a really like eye-opening and also empowering in a way, just class that felt like in different than other classes where I maybe my brain is expanded on a certain topic. I felt like my entire world was almost expanded in a way. And so it was just a really amazing class for me. And so that was some of the things that we learned about, was just like how I can be a better world citizen, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I would say that during the FIS, we like really, I think we focus a lot specifically on like race and explore those issues. And I personally appreciated that as someone who was like new to the United States and like hadn't ever really come across the concept of race, because that's not something that's used in my like own country. So having like the right tools and vocabulary to like really talk about those issues and be able to like talk about it from like an like academic and theoretical standpoint, and not just be like emotionally invested in arguments, and really understand where like certain problems are coming from. And I think one of the things that I really enjoyed about like our classes was that like as we were learning about those problems, we were also learning how to have conversations in order to like come up with those solutions. And like in class, we wouldn't just talk about like, oh, this is the prescribed solution. No, we would like try to have conversations and come up with our own solutions ourselves. And so I think like the being very like solution oriented and very discussion oriented was really helpful for me to just like engage with other students and become more aware of things that I would not necessarily have learned otherwise.
That's great.
Okay, so like I learned basically like how Brooke and Marvelous have said, they like teach us a lot about how to be aware about our surroundings, how to make sure that there's like enough of those conversations. Because I know some of the people that were in my classes this year and last semester, not many people have had like a discussion about race. You're talking about ethnicities and other cultures, and they were actually really like, it really benefited them. And they were saying that it's such a good thing, that it's something that they needed, because not many other classes are willing to discuss that. And this class teaches you the proper terms to use, more definitions, more insight of other cultures and other people's perspectives on life and on race. For example, we read a book called Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? And that book, honestly, to me, like, it blew my mind how much I didn't know about race and like about racism that goes on in our country. And it really talks about topics that need to be discussed, and it really starts that conversation.
I'm just over here making hand gestures, but no one can hear me. Um, Unfortunately, we've gotten to the point of our evening where we do need to let our friends get back to the work that they're doing in their lives and sign off. But I want to say thank you again to Casey and Jordan for being a part of this, and also to our students for taking part in this evening too. I don't want to leave without giving Casey or anyone else. Is there anything that you'd like to share before we conclude?
Thank you so much, Skylar. Jordan looks like he has something to say. I'll also just add, if we don't have time for questions that folks have that are pressing, we would be more than glad to answer those via email or a phone call. So you can find all of our contact information right on the Phelps Scholars homepage.
Yeah, you can also check out our Instagram and even just message us on there. So the only thing I was going to add is there was one more question I noticed in the chat that's kind of an easy one, asking about how many people are signed up in the program right now, which I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, and we still have until May 31 is the initial deadline to apply. But we're not full, but we are over half. So the class progress is coming along really well, and there's still plenty of space for more people who want to apply. But don't sit around and wait forever, because it looks like we're gonna fill up. So just to answer that question, but thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Jordan. I just want to wrap up by saying, again, thank you all for joining us. And thank you to everyone who's listening. If you've taken part in multiple of these Evening at Hope events, or if this was your first one, we're so glad that you took the time to come and hear and learn a little bit more about hope. What I will say is that if you did miss one of the previous Evening at Hope events, be sure to check those out. Those are on our YouTube page. The recordings will be there. This recording will be there. So if you want to pass this on to maybe some of your friends who are considering hope because you think this would be a great fit for them, we'd love for you to do that. Last thing I want to say about Phelps Scholars, and I mentioned this earlier, I'm someone who didn't do the Phelps Scholars program, but I really do see Phelps Scholars as one of those things in college that you'll hear a lot of people talk about how great the experience was, but you'll never hear someone say that they regret taking part in it. This is one of my big regrets, that I didn't do the Phelps Scholars program. So if you are someone who is considering it, if you are thinking, this might be a good fit for you, please give it a full look, because I think the life change that'll come out of this will impact you for forever. A few last housekeeping things I just want to touch on. May 1 is coming up, the national deposit deadline. If you are someone who is thinking hope is where you want to be, you're ready to make that commitment, we would love for you to do that. But I also want to mention that if you are someone who has, certain unforeseen things that have happened in your life due to COVID-19, that's making that hard to make that decision by May 1, please let us know. Reach out to your admissions representative. We definitely want to work with you, but just wanted to give you a reminder of that. And if you do have any lingering questions, please reach out to Casey or Jordan, but also contact your admissions representative. We'd love to chat with you. Hope you all have a great evening. Stay safe, stay healthy, and go hope.